Hi, my name is Dalia Stabrauskaite, and I'll share with you my analysis of different models around Europe which contribute to improved preventive conservation of historic buildings. Preventive conservation is recognized as an essential part of sustainable heritage management, and it can bring about many different benefits. In my research, I tried to identify and analyze different initiatives and organizations that work in this field. I looked at their methods and tried to understand what makes them effective and successful. In the process, I met with a number of managers of different countries involved in this kind of work and applied a variety of research methods. This paper is a very condensed version of my master thesis under the same title. I found a variety of practices that contribute to the improved maintenance of buildings in Europe. Based on the differences in objectives and methods applied, I classified them into three categories. The first one was the main focus of my research. It's called after an organization Monumentenwacht, which was established back in 1973 in Netherlands. Largely due to this organization's work, currently around 82% of listed historic buildings are in a good or very good condition, which is not the case in many other European countries. So the success of this model inspired a number of other European organizations to implement it in their countries, which you can see in the map. Numbers signify the sequence in which they appeared. So number 1 is the oldest and number 10, fixes in Lithuania, is the newest. I'm showing you this unreadable slide just to illustrate that I was looking at the same aspects for each of one of these cases. And this comparison revealed various differences among them. So I was looking at what services they provide, what type of organizations they are, and so on. So that showed that they are not just pure copies of the Dutch model, but that they are run in quite different ways. However, you can see this bit, which is uniform. So one thing that is common to all of them is these 4 core services that they all provide. When they visit the building, they perform a throughout visual inspection. When needed, they perform minor but crucial repairs. For example, they clean clogged gutters, apply temporary fixes to the roof, take care of unstable components, etc. They also talk with the owners and consult them, provide maintenance advice, and after some time they provide an extensive report, which not only describes the condition and lists down all the issues, but also provide recommendations to the owner. There are also other kinds of services that some of the organizations provide. For example, Lithuanian organization also performs lab research of samples taken during inspections, while organizations in Flanders can provide cost-related estimations, which are in great demand. Some organizations were already working in the field of heritage and expanded their activities. Others were established specifically for this purpose. Some are subordinate bodies of governmental institutions, other non-governmental. NGOs highlight their impartiality as one of the most important traits. However, they are very much dependent on public money, as we will talk about in a minute. Some organizations have less than 5 employees, others over 100, so they really vary a lot in size. As you've seen from the map, they cover areas of different sizes. The ones that cover only an area of one city were started as pilot schemes to test their feasibility. They're easier to set up and manage, but lack the economy of scale, and there are challenges that come with it. And there are also organizations that cover larger areas, such as province or the whole country. And there's also a project in the south of Europe where 3 countries are involved, and they have their own distinct challenges as well. The 3 longest running schemes are supported by local and state governments. And the fact that public funding is essential for this model to work has been mentioned many times before. It didn't come as a surprise, but I wanted to get an understanding of the level of support that is needed. So I took 2 very different membership-based schemes as case studies. I compared the income generated from the fees with their overall annual budget. The two examples show what a small proportion of costs is actually comprised with the fees collected. Even a well-established organization operating for many years, the one on the right, in a relatively big area generates only a third of its income from members' contributions. The percentage is naturally even lower for a relatively new scheme operating in a small territory of one city. Accordingly, public money normally constitutes way over 2/3 of the budget. A majority of Monumentenwacht schemes are based on a membership system under which heritage owners pay an annual member fee, and they also charge for the services provided. Some also charge for travel expenses incurred and for the materials used for repairs. There are great differences in pricing, but the average annual membership fee is around 40 euros. As for services, most organizations apply an hourly rate, which varies from 30 euros to about 80, depending on a country and service provided. It's also important to mention that there are great differences in value-added tax. These services are exempt from this tax in Netherlands, while in many countries it's not even reduced. Moving on to the second type of practices, these are not as hands-on or site-specific, but they're still very important in the system of preventive conservation as well. They focus on education and awareness raising, and 4 of them stood out as the most common. Very briefly, I'll present each one of them. So heritage centers in this a heritage center in this context refers to a non-profit organization which provides consultations and workshops on heritage-related topics to heritage owners, wider public, and specialists. Such establishments are widespread in the Northern Europe, especially in Norway and Estonia. This is not an exhaustive list, but most of the important centers in the region are believed to have been identified. Those that were considered as very low in activity or inactive were deliberately excluded. The situation in Sweden and Finland requires further investigation. Just to give you an idea of such centers, on the left you can see a center in Tallinn, Estonia, which mainly focuses on wooden heritage, as most centers in Northern Europe do. However, as an exception, the one in Oslo works with brick buildings of a specific period. Both of them organize various workshops and events. The one in Tallinn very conveniently also hosts a shop where owners can buy traditional materials suitable for historic buildings that are difficult to be found elsewhere. And the one in Oslo provides pre-initial inspection for facades and common areas, and then deliver a brief report to the owner with recommendations on materials, craftsmen, funding, and other. And both of them are supported with public money. There are various examples of one-off campaigns or short-term initiatives for the improved maintenance of heritage. And events like these are generally considered beneficial, but there's not much research measuring their real impact and effectiveness in the long run. So I chose one specific case, a cycle of practical wooden windows workshops for the public. Each of these workshops lasted for 4 days, so that participants would be introduced to every stage of the process from start to finish. My colleagues and I organized them in 2016, so 3 years later I've sent a survey to the participants to learn about their experience. That's a period long enough to apply such skills and knowledge in practice. There were various findings, but the one that I present here now today, and the one that interests me the most, is this: 43% of respondents applied the skills in practice, that is, repaired a window by themselves. And that showed that such practical events not only raise awareness, but do actually contribute to improved maintenance. Now, many heritage owners and managers encounter difficulties when looking for a good specialist. There are not many such databases yet, but here are a couple of examples. Maintenance Booker in UK features a competitive tendering system. When the user of the site submits a quote request, various local and national contractors are invited to bid for the job. All of them are accredited for historic buildings maintenance. The other one was established to support owners of traditional buildings in rural areas of Estonia. Its website not only provides a list of professionals, but also all of them have agreed to provide a defined counseling service. It would normally cost over 150 euros for the owner, but most of it is covered with public money to make it affordable for the owner. The simplest of the forms, informational publications that are written in a way that is understandable and accessible to non-professionals, also on the rise, and numbers of distribution show that there is a great demand for them. For example, over 34,000 such guides have been distributed by a conservation centre in Scotland in only 2 years of time. Both previously mentioned practices try to improve the condition of built environment by raising awareness, informing, and educating. However, high percentages of historic buildings in poor condition suggest that such non-obligatory schemes may not be sufficient. This model represents the view that maintenance should be a shared responsibility and not a choice, with supporting legal acts and financial instruments in place. However, such policies can hardly be found in Europe, and therefore ongoing discussions and plans to introduce tenement maintenance legislation in Scotland are of great interest in this context. Due to time limitations, I will only mention that this plan includes mandatory property inspections every 5 years. And if this plan goes through, sale of properties or getting a grant will not be possible without a report of such inspection. Finally, just a quick word about communication strategies. All the aforementioned organizations usually communicate the first benefit, the expansion of lifespan of buildings and the historic fabric. However, for these strategies to resonate with people that are not necessarily interested in heritage, it is highly suggested that there would be much more emphasis on the second. In this context of climate change and construction sector, there's a lot of focus on improving energy efficiency and applying adaptive reuse on derelict buildings. However, the potential to prolong the lives of buildings that are still in use through preventive conservation methods is not yet fully acknowledged and promoted. To conclude, I hope my paper contributed to increased understanding of the many ways and scenarios in which Monumentenweg type of organization can be set up. I want to highlight that all of these methods complement each other and they should all exist in every country altogether, that preventive conservation system would be truly effective. Substantial public funding is required for them to be feasible, and it's very important to communicate not only preservation of valuable buildings for their own sake, but also for the preservation of resources. Thank you for listening. I hope this was useful, and if you have any questions or ideas for cooperation, do not hesitate to contact me.